Hi friends and welcome to From Amateur to Expert. Let's do something remarkable today. Over the next few minutes, let's equip you with the blueprint for a life well lived. Your average person is happy to coast through their life and through their career. But if you burn on the inside for a little more, if you've decided that your story is important to you and you want to make something remarkable out of this one chance that you get, let's look at the how of becoming something significant in your world. Whatever that might be, whether you're an artist, a writer, a creator, whether you're building a corporate career, whether you're a YouTuber, whatever it is that you want to do with your life, how do you get to the pinnacle of that game? How do you live your life by design? Today we're going to talk about becoming a top name, becoming a leading icon in your industry on purpose. My name is Douglas Kruger. I'm the author of a book called Own Your Industry, How to Position Yourself as an Expert, and I've been writing, speaking, and thinking about top experts for a couple of decades now. So over the next 15 minutes, I'm going to share with you the how-to of setting up your entire life. Every industry has these top names, whether we're talking about the Schwarzenegger of bodybuilding. And what's remarkable about that is he's been out of bodybuilding for 40 years, and people still think of him as the top name. Whether it's the Rihanna of rhythm, the Elon of innovation, the Will Smith of Mortal Kombat. There's a line that'll work this week. If you're watching this a few years from now, you might not know what that is. Go and Google 2022 Academy Awards, Will Smith. For horror books, it might be Stephen King. Skateboarding, it is still Tony Hawk. In cooking, it might be Gordon Ramsay or Nigella Lawson. Oprah is still a TV legend, even though she's not in the box anymore. These people are technically good at what they do, and that's perhaps a given. But that's not the entire equation. There is more going on here. When we think about becoming a top performer, a top expert, a top icon, our first and most obvious thought is that you have to be excellent at your craft. And that goes without saying, but there's more to the equation than that. It's not just about being the top practitioner from a purely technical perspective. Let's take someone like Nigella Lawson, the chef. You see her in doing TV shows all around the world. She pops up in Australia, New Zealand, she lives in the UK, and she's been one of the top names in her industry for a very long time. So that begs the question, do you think she is technically the world's most qualified chef? I think even Nigella Lawson would be happy to say, no, she isn't. Is she in the world's top 10 most technically qualified chefs? Once again, I think the answer is no. So why is she out-earning those top 10 combined? What's going on there? Well, it turns out that there is more to this equation than mere technical proficiency. You must build up your talent over time. And there's a fascinating equation to talent, which is essentially this. You have to break it down into its constituent parts. Then you have to master each part and then build it back up again. The more you do that, the more you grow a substance called myelin in the brain. The difference is like when you start off, it's as though you don't have enough electricity and it's trying to run too many systems. You try to concentrate on each thing. The more you do this, the more you grow that circuitry and the messages travel faster. Then you can do things without particular effort, without really thinking about it, and you get into that state of flow. There's very little in the world that is more satisfying than getting into that state as you make, create, or do. So, you must have the technical proficiency, you must have the knowledge, but there is more to it. I believe that experts exist at the intersection of three qualities, and you must have all three, or you disqualify yourself as a potential top name in whatever it is that you do. The first and most obvious one is, in fact, the knowledge. Now, we're going to use knowledge there as a catch-all phrase meaning skill, ability, technical proficiency, know-how. You've got to know your stuff, the knowledge side of things. But there are two more things that have to be there as well. Knowledge plus personality. Take someone like Jeremy Clarkson, who's been a legend in the world of cars and the automotive world for several decades now. Do we think that he knows more about cars than anyone else on the planet? I think the answer is no. Yet what he does is he brings his personality to the mix. So, whether you are building a YouTube channel, becoming an author, starting off as an artist of any kind, whether you want to be a speaker, a sports star, whatever the thing is that you want to do at the highest levels, do you bring personality to it? Is there, above and beyond your technical proficiency, something that sets you apart as a human being, something that people look at and find in some way interesting. Now, if you are a producer of content, that means that you're bringing in the entertainment factor, you're bringing in the humor factor, you're bringing in the drama. You know how to tell stories in interesting ways, and there's something going on over there. When people look at you, there's the sense that something interesting is happening over there. So, knowledge plus personality plus PR. In other words, you have to take it on a roadshow. It's not enough that you be good at what you do and nobody knows it. It's not sufficient that you have the personality that sparkles or that draws people to you, but nobody is aware of it. Knowledge and personality taken on a roadshow. You have to be good at what you do, you have to bring the human element to what you do, and you have to show it to the world. Put those three together and you have the core formula for becoming a top name in your industry. Take someone like a Gordon Ramsay, also in the world of food and chefs and so forth. He brings in caustic wit and sarcasm. He's actually quite a caustic personality, but there is a personality, and it's a strong one, and that's what he brings to it. So I don't want you to think about changing your personality. If you are a fairly quiet, fairly reserved person, that's absolutely fine. Take that reserved person and show that person to the world. It matters that you take who you are, amplify it, and show it. Wrap your knowledge and your skills in your personality, take it on a roadshow. So, here's the formula to remember. If you have all the knowledge in the world, but no personality, you are merely a specialist, and you've disqualified yourself from becoming a top icon. If you have all the personality in the world, but no knowledge, you are a Kardashian. That's a whole different universe. Knowledge, personality, publicity. So, let's talk about how you activate those things. If you understand that core formula, you now want to know, what do I do about it? All right, number one, icons never stop learning. So this goes to the idea of the knowledge and the technical proficiency. I often, when I speak for corporate leaders, I say, you don't have the time not to read. All of the shortcuts, all of the smart cuts, all of the things that have been learnt before in your industry are contained in books, YouTube videos, mentorship programs, and so forth. You don't have the time not to learn these things. I know for myself, I've recently moved and my YouTube studio setup is not as good as it used to be. So what I've been doing is trying to look for very quick shortcuts to put these things together until I can reform my studio at the level that I want. And I watch YouTube videos with things like lighting techniques, camera techniques, how to set up your room to get the best possible effect. And over time, I will improve this and get it back to what I used to have before I moved house. But that's the formula that you want to go for. You want to be continually watching YouTube videos, reading books, seeking out these smart cuts for how to do a thing. Get to the next level of proficiency fast. So icons never stop learning, and it's about those million small things that you can improve over time. Let me ask you, in your world, the thing at which you want to be a great name, a leading icon, what are the technical things that you could improve right now? Do you have a list? And are you working on that list? I'll give you a simple example. I've been writing on my phone little things that I can do to improve my lighting, to improve my sound setup and so forth. And over time, I will tick those things off as I learn to do them and I set them up. What's your technical proficiency list? What things can you get better at and should you be finding solutions to? You don't have to solve it all this week, but you do have to solve it. And the more it grows, the more you become perceived as a top, slick level expert. And everything you do just looks professional. Ultimately, it also looks effortless. And that's what you want. If you watch, say, your top YouTubers, if you read your favorite authors and so forth, watch your favorite sports stars, it just looks effortless. The art is in hiding the art. They have learned so many small things about how to make it look good that it all comes together in one incredibly polished end result. So point number one, icons never stop learning. Point number two is icons become a face and a voice in the public consciousness. In the corporate world, the skill that will give you the most leeway, the most leverage, and will get you promoted faster than just about anything else is the skill of public speaking and presenting. And that's fairly obvious when you start to think about it. The person who raises their hand, the person who is seen leading from the front of the room, is perceived as the expert at that point in time. They are perceived as the thought leader. The more you do that, the more people start to use this phrase, you know who you should talk to about that, and your name appears at the end of the sentence. You must be seen doing the thing you do well publicly. Now, again, for the introverts among us, that might be on YouTube. That might be the articles you publish. It might be the books that you write. But it could be the actual presentations that you stand up and do in front of a live audience. If that's you, consider joining a Toastmasters club to get those smart cuts. Forbes magazine reckons it's the #1 skill you can learn for promotion and advancement in a corporate career. Number 3, icons are relentless producers. They write articles, they make videos, they create songs, they keep on producing. And I always like to explore the example of Dean Koontz. It's a fascinating origin story. When we talk about overnight successes, we often think of people like Stephen King. And Stephen King is a wonderful story, but he's sort of a one in a million. Stephen King's story is quite well known. He wrote about it in the book On Writing. He sold Carrie, it came with a huge advance, it became a New York Times bestseller, he went straight to the top of the lists, and it was this breakaway success story. Now, that's great. However, I think we get more useful leverage out of Dean Koontz's story. Dean Koontz, on several of the lists of best-selling authors, is ahead of Stephen King. He sold over 500 million copies of his books. Depending which list you look at, Dean Koontz actually comes out ahead. The first 15, 20 books that he wrote went more or less nowhere. It took him a long time to become an overnight success, but he is now a success on a gigantic scale. And I think that says something very interesting about the accumulative effect of production. When I started out as a speaker and author, I didn't particularly perceive myself as a YouTube personality. I just started filming some of my presentations and filming some of my ideas and putting them up online. A very short while ago, I passed 100,000 subscribers, and thank you for that. The channel has had over 5 million views, which I'm blown away by that. And that is just the result of slow but steady accumulation. I slowly but surely learn little tricks and tips and techniques and ways of doing things, and I keep on producing. I also give myself permission to be imperfect. And what I mean by that is, right now, you're not looking at the best setup I've ever had. I used to have a much better studio setup, moved homes, I'm busy doing it all again, but I can do one of two things now. I can stop producing, or I can continue producing, give myself permission to be imperfect, and build it up over time. I find that the slow builds tend to be the most effective, and Dean Koontz is a massive success story looking at that principle. So, what do you produce? What do you put out into the world? How often do you do it? When you've finished writing your one book, do you start on the next one? I've just had a scenario this year where, after writing 12 business books, I wrote novel number 1. That was published at the beginning of this year. I'm now up to novel number 4. And the principle there is, if it's working, if it has a little momentum, keep going. Keep producing. Keep creating that content. And because I've been writing for a while, I'm able to do it at a relatively rapid pace. I've got the technical ability to type fairly fast, but I've also developed the mental ability to think my way through the production of a book relatively fast. And I keep on producing. I've finished number 4 now, I'm going to get started on number 5. What's your number 5, and how long until you get started? Experts and icons are relentless producers. And here's a bonus idea number 4, and we'll end with this one. There are many ideas you can explore, and you can make this a lifetime craft, but these, I think, are the most important ones. Idea number 4 is experts model an ideal. So, this is this idea of personality being a part of the mix. It's not just your technical proficiency, which is entrance into the game. It is necessary but insufficient. More than that, you've got to activate your personality. And here's one way that you do it. Ask yourself, when you started in this world, whether it's a sport, whether it's cartooning, whether it's the corporate world, what image did you have of yourself? What did you want to become? The more you model that kind of image for others, the more they will want to follow you. take someone like Jordan Peterson, who's a runaway success story. He is modeling this sort of vision of a man who has his mental life together and is working on his goals, and he's something of a father figure as well. And it is immensely compelling to young people who want someone to look up to. Who did you look up to when you started in your industry? And now that you've gained proficiency and you're becoming a personality and an icon in your industry, are you modeling something that others may want to emulate? I'll give you another example of this one, and it comes from, once again, one of my favorite personalities, Nigella Lawson. In this household, Nigella Lawson is close on a religion. 50% of adults polled think she's fantastic. My wife and I watch the show regularly, but for vastly different reasons. So Nigella Lawson once did an interview with Time magazine, and she was up on the stage, and they asked her a fascinating question that just pinged in my mind. It leapt out at me as someone who studies experts. They said, "What was your original inspiration for what you do?" And she said, when I was about 17 years old, I had this vision, this sort of mental ideal of an Italian goddess, this sort of romantic Italian goddess. And she said, that's what I've tried to do with my work ever since. Now, folks, go and watch a Nigella Lawson show, and you will see that writ large. That's what sets her apart. She is very good at the food and preparation side of things. But that's not the full picture. The balance of that is that she is modeling this ideal of the sort of sensual Italian goddess, and she takes that on a roadshow. That's what's going on there. That's what made her a global icon. So, let me ask you once again, beyond the technical proficiency that you have won over the years, what is the model of an ideal that you are showing to potential followers? They watch you not only to learn something, not only to be entertained, not only to see the thing you do, but to some extent to discover how to be the kind of person that they would like to be. There's your quick blueprint to building an entire career as an icon, an expert, a leading name in whatever it is that you want to do with your life. If you want more on that sort of thing, please do download one of my audiobooks. You might try Own Your Industry, or you might try What Makes Them Great. Those two books by Douglas Kruger focus on the topic of expert positioning and how to consciously craft a life by design. But that little formula, that way of activating the formula, that's the heart and soul of it. Take that simple idea, take those simple insights, and build a life of which you can be proud. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. We talk every now and then on the concept of how to go from amateur to expert and how to make the most out of the life with which you've been blessed.